Now we are.
Then we're on. Not doing it there. Everyone watching. Are you impacting and hammering, or can we come in? You'll just stay there.
20,000 people watch you every video.
I don't care, mate. 2 in the yard watching me put me off. Jesus is shining on it. Jesus is saying, save me. I'm taking it inside. Oh. Gonna have to give it some revs to get it going. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we've got a W204 C-Class, a cheap W204 C-Class, which we have bought as a little project really. It's done 200,000 miles and it's broke. The customer didn't want to invest in it because they've got new cars. This was just the runaround, and I think it's too good to scrap. We're going to see if we can save it. First problem is when we engage drive or reverse, the car is stalling. That is a fault with the torque converter. It's basically, if you could imagine a clutch, a manual car, you pull up at lights, you put your clutch down, stop it stalling. Well, the torque converter replaces that. It's not disengaging and the car's stalling, so it's actually pretty dangerous to drive. It's pretty much undrivable. The second problem is the engine mounts have gone. There's a extremely bad vibration in the cabin, probably the worst I've ever felt. If you've got teeth, they're gonna rattle out, it's that bad. But I think it's worth saving. It's got a few war wounds on it. The wheels are absolutely knackered, but it's got good tyres. Somebody's kindly keyed the side of the door. A couple of dents in the tailgate. Oh, there's another mark there. We're hoping to make this a good runaround for somebody and hopefully make a profit. So, plan is torque converter, engine mounts. It's probably due a service. We'd probably service it. We've paid 750 quid for this car. It's not worth an awful lot because it's done 200,000 miles. The car's been highly maintained, so I think it's got one last life in it to be a good car for someone else. We're going to explore a few different options on repairing because we need to make money out of this car, and a torque converter is not cheap. It's good content for the channel, and we'll see what happens.
3 days later.
Right, back on this C-Class, we've got a plan of action. Customers dropped off an absolute stack of paperwork, so that's why I think it's worth saving this car. We've got 2 engine mounts for the car. The car is vibrating like mad. So much so you can see the seats vibrating. It's really bad. So we've got a set of engine mounts to fit, a bit of a plan of attack to change the mounts and obviously take the gearbox out. We'll try and do it in one big job. Torque converter, there was a couple of options with it. A brand new torque converter was £2,000. An aftermarket torque converter was £1,000. So normally we'd go for the refurbishment option, which is about £500. But unfortunately, our torque converter can't be refurbished. Apparently our part number can't be done for some reason or other. So obviously a £2,000 torque converter would just wipe out all profits out of the car, plus the mounts, plus the gearbox service, plus this, plus that. £1,000 one, probably the same, probably not leave much meat on the bone there. And by an absolute fluke, I have had a torque converter lying around, which I've had for absolutely ages. Oh, it's heavy. I've had that torque converter for about 4 or 5 years, and it's the right one for this car. Yes, it's second-hand. The reason I've got it is I had a car with a gearbox fault and the customer was adamant that it was a torque converter. I disagreed, but he was adamant, so he made us fit a brand new torque converter, and it did not solve the problem. So that's how I have come to acquire that one. It's an absolute fluke that it's the same part number as what we need for this car. So to keep this car on budget and realistic, because we're going to try and make some money, we're going to use that second-hand one. It is a bit of a risk, but fingers crossed there is no issues with it. It's been stud a while, that, but it has been full of oil. So brand new engine mounts, second-hand torque converter. Obviously flush all the fluid out the gearbox service, a couple of cosmetic things maybe, probably due a service as well. So the value of the car, what we've paid for it and all the parts stuff, it's going to be tight, but I think it's worth saving. I don't think it deserves to go to scrapyard. So the plan is, you've got to take the DPF off, the exhaust off, to change the driver's side engine mount. That will give us more room to take the gearbox out. So the plan is, take the exhaust off, do the engine mounts first, then the gearbox, replace the torque converter, and then put the exhaust back on last, just to give us a bit more room. So that's the plan. So as you can see, left hand side's pretty easy access. Right hand side isn't. There's the mount. We've got the steering column, UJ in the way. We've got the DPF in the way, and obviously the middle section which goes from there to there. Got to go up top.
Yep.
Get a bit more access to the driver's side, we're going to have to take the airbox out. Out. Special tool to slide down and get on the mount. So I've got the engine propped up underneath the bell housing of the engine, so I'm just trying to lift it to get a mount out. There we go. You can see that is completely knackered. Should be solid. So these are handed.
Yes.
Why don't they list them like engine mount right, left, engine mount right? So I think that is that one. You can see the difference there. That's not dampening any of the engine, so that's solid. That way. Come on. Right hand engine mount going in. We have had to disconnect the UJ to make a bit more room to get it out. And then we can start on the proper stuff, start getting the gearbox out. Engine mounts were 100 quid each. That doesn't make sense. Engine mounts were 100 quid each. 100% these need doing. We would never be able to sell the car as it was. So bad. So engine mounts are in. We've got to tighten up the top bolts. Leave the exhaust off. Exhaust is staying off just to give us some more room. Up the bell housing up that side, which will hopefully speed the process up a bit. Turn the camera on while I'm struggling. Thanks, mate. Right, mounts are tight. We need to do them from the top once the car's back down. Do you reckon this torque converter is going to work?
I hope it does.
Thanks for giving me the wrong size spanner.
It was a 19, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit baggy that, mate. It's a 17. Okay. So that's engine mounts done. Get the gearbox drained. Get as much fluid out of that as we can. Get the prop shaft undone. Go undo the prop shaft. Just start taking it apart. So obviously we're having the gearbox out. Naturally it's got to have a gearbox service as well. So that's another job done for the new owner. Gearbox service, it's going to cost us about 250 quid. So we're easily up to 500 quid in parts already, and we've got a free torque converter. It's going to do someone good, this car. I've got faith in it. I mean, the profit we make is probably less than what it would be us actually doing the job properly for a customer, but it's good learning for Nathan, taking the gearbox out. While Nathan's starting to take bits out, just complimenting how good condition it is under here. We've fitted some new suspension arms on its recent service, anti-roll bar links. It's got 4 good tyres, good years on the front, good tyres on the back, Dunlops on the back. Obviously the wheels aren't in the best condition. Subframe, it's had a new subframe at Mercedes, springs, diffs bone dry, nice dry diff. I mean, look at that, brand new subframe. It's had new rear brake pipes, they're copper brake pipes, so the rear brake pipes have been replaced. No oil leaks. It's now got fresh engine mounts. But like I say, this car has got stacks and stacks of history. What we'll do is, once the car's finished, I'll go through how many miles has the car done whilst I've been servicing it, and how much has it cost. Good though, isn't it?
Yep.
Right, so far we've got the prop shaft off, oil cooler lines, electrical plugs, earth strap,
Selector.
whoa, selector. So next up, torque converter bolts. Right, we've got all the torque converter bolts out. They go through that hole there and they go in there. So to locate them, Nathan's had to rotate the front of the engine, which spins the torque converter so we can see the bolts, take one out at a time, and there's only 4 on this particular gearbox. Next thing to do, take all the bell housing bolts out. I think we've got everything else undone, and then we can send the gearbox back, send it down, swap torque converters. We're not playing games with this one. Out and back in, trying to get it done in a day. Get the rest of the bolts out and keep going. Easy one to last. Right, let's give it a wiggle. Yep, it's separated. Should we get a strap and just chuck a strap around it? It's going to be quite heavy at the front of the gearbox, so we're just going to strap the back of the gearbox to the jack to save it tilting. Just in case, because you never know. Ratchet strap attempt number 2. The first one was faulty. Next thing, to take the box out, move it back slowly, drop it down. So we needed 2 sets of hands to get the gearbox out, so we stuck the camera on a time lapse, and as you can see us dropping it out, nice and easy. Right, gearbox is out. Torque converter is there. We need to pull that off, get the bucket, swap it and go straight back in. So you always want to take a bit of a reference of how far on the torque converter is, because it's easy to put it on wrong. It like goes on a couple of notches. think I've explained that before in a different video. So get your fingers behind, have a feel for space. How far are they pointing out? Probably a finger's worth. Just anything. Right, we finally got the torque converter off. It was an absolute pain to get off. Usually they just slide off. We've literally had to hammer it off. So it was basically stuck on the splines. We'll crack on, get the new torque converter on. Gearbox has got to go back in there. Keep our fingers crossed. And here we are, going back in. Nathan's tightening up the bell housing. Got the prop shaft in loose, and he's tightening up the prop shaft bolts. All the lines are back in. We're going well. We're doing all right. Keep going, Nath. So we took the gearbox mounting bracket off as one. So the bracket bolts to the mount bolts to another bracket, which goes to the back of the gearbox. So we undone them for these 6, take the whole thing off, and that's a brand new gearbox mount as well. Right, gearbox is now safe, all bolted in. Get the sump off, give the gearbox a full service. DPF is pretty much in. Exhaust left to put on. We're getting somewhere. This brand new looking exhaust.
2 brand new clamps on it.
I've got to have replaced that surely.
I was leaving that off because I need to do my gearbox service. It's easier to keep that bracket out of the way of the exhaust.
All right.
And get your sump down. Because otherwise it's a bit in your way. Yes.
Right, it's the following day. We've put a new gearbox filter in it, fluid, gasket, bolts, everything that needs to go back inside the gearbox. We've tightened up the engine mounts, put the airbox back in, so it is the moment of truth. Also, Brucey bonus, customer came yesterday, dropped off a spare key. Got 2 keys for this car. A key, if you're buying a Merc and it's got 1 key, the keys are £300 on their own, so well worth an added extra. Anyway, ignition on.
Oh my God.
Well, there's no vibrations in the car. I cannot tell you the difference inside this car. It is unreal. That's a minor issue. The main issue, engage reverse. Hey!
Yeah, dude.
We're in game, we've not cut out. Drive. I had faith in that torque converter. I knew there was nothing wrong with that torque converter, but I don't know how long I've had it. That was the problem. It's been sat there many years, but I know that the car I fitted it in, it didn't fix his problem, so he just said, keep it. Well, happy with that. I didn't want to take that back out. Oh. I mean, we don't know what it drives like yet. Let's get the gearbox up to temperature. You've got to drain it at a set temperature. I think it's 45?
45 on a blue.
45 degrees. So, new torque converter, new engine mounts, gearbox service. Providing the road test goes well, we'll give it a normal service as well. It's not due till December, but I wouldn't want to sell it and it does come back a couple of months later for a service. I'd rather just do it early. We could do with adding up what we've spent so far, see how much we've got left, and we could do with seeing what is it worth properly. Yeah. It's done 200,000 miles, but with perfect service history and perfect maintenance. Well, that's the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, let's get it up to temperature, let's get the gearbox bled, let's give it a go. Right, first road test in the cheap C-Class. I can't tell you the difference inside the cabin with those engine mounts on. It's literally a different car. I've had a look at the prices of where we're up to so far. There's still work remaining to do, and this profit margin is disappearing very quickly. I feel sorry for car salesmen. I honestly don't know how you make money. God, the seat's high up. Get a bit lower. Whoa. Bit of slip in there, don't know what happened there. Had a little bit of slippage back there. So yeah, the budget is very tight on this car already, and we've had a free torque converter. If I would have had to have bought one for £1,000, it would have just been a non-starter, this, to be honest, because I presumed I could get it reconditioned when I agreed to buy the car, and quickly discovered I can't. Stop start works. Yep, aircon's nice and cold. Providing this road test is successful, we will treat it to a wheel refurb. It's probably not a good idea because that's another chunk of budget, but I feel like because we saved on the torque converter, we should spend it elsewhere. It's probably not a good idea. Let's go down the bypass. Full throttle. Yep. It didn't change up a gear then. That's worrying. I'm on the motorway and this is not good. It is slipping like mad. I'm braking down. This is not good. Gotta get off the motorway. The profit is disappearing in front of my eyes. This car should have gone to car heaven. Not good. So the road test was not that successful. I think we got a bit too excited. So we're no longer cutting out when we engage gear. I drove down the road and the gearbox slipped, so the revs have increased and the engine speed hasn't. And then we were stuck in third gear, so I went down the bypass. It'd get up to 70 mile an hour, but it would not change up a gear. Diagnostics has reported that we're slipping in fourth gear. Now, that could be down to a couple of different things. Is our torque converter faulty? I'm not sure, because first, second, third it's fine, so I don't see why fourth would make a difference. Or has the old torque converter, when it's failed, has that damaged the gearbox? But this is the risk we took, and this is why the customer didn't want to go ahead with it, because it is a risk. Apart from that, it drove well, if you like driving around in first, second and third. So not good news.
One eternity later.
Right, so that road test did not go well whatsoever. We are going to roll the dice again. We've got a second-hand gearbox without a new torque converter, because I think my torque converter is good. So we got a really good deal on a used gearbox without the torque converter that has done 100,000 miles, which is half the mileage of this car. So we're gonna chuck that in. It's about 2 weeks later this. In the meantime, we've had the wheels refurbished, which is a completely stupid idea when the car doesn't drive, but I inquired about getting them done and it was about a 2 week wait, so I thought, yeah, that's fine. And I got a phone call to say they've had a cancellation, would you like to take it? And it was literally the day after I broke down, so got some nice shiny wheels. So let's get it in and let's get it done.
Ready.
Right, gearbox number 2 is back in. This is another gamble really, but I've said enough times we're on a budget. We also replaced the centre caps, by the way, for the new wheels because they are absolutely ruined. We put some eBay specials in, a set of 4 black ones for a tenner, and the fitment was absolutely awful. But what do you expect? I think proper ones are 20 quid each. Anyway, we got them fitted. They don't fit the best. Who cares on my 200,000 mile C220 diesel. Right, well, good start. We're moving. So last time I could not get in 4th gear. By the time I got to when it wanted to change from 3rd to 4th, I completely lost power. And I did actually break down. We're rolling the dice again. Paid £200 for this gearbox, which is very cheap, but we got like a bare gearbox, so we've put our valve body and conductor plate in there. It didn't have a torque converter. So far so good. That's 30 mile an hour. It's all very risky what we're doing here, and so far wasting a lot of time. Obviously if you're doing the job properly, new torque converter and a gearbox rebuild, you can't go wrong. Well, no slipping so far, however, we are in a 30 mile an hour zone, so we're going to go down the bypass, which is 50. Should that be successful, we'll go down the motorway, which is obviously 70. It's a 7-speed gearbox, and that's 7 forward gears for anyone wondering. This gearbox fluid is £10 per litre. We've currently wasted 20 litres. So £200 in fluid alone. I've got a touch-up pen to touch up all the marks on the car because we're not going to be having paint work done. Probably give the aircon a regas. It is working, but just make sure it's at full efficiency. This is why I'm rubbish at selling cars. I always do too much. And I don't even sell cars, by the way. It's very, very rare that I'd buy a car to do up and sell. But in this case, I thought it'd be good content for the channel. It is good content. It would have been good content if it went right, or good content if it went wrong, so can't really lose. Right, bypass. Yes, 4th gear, 5th gear. We are going through the gears, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to brave it. I'm going to go on the motorway where I broke down last time. I was going to go for the middle lane then, but I'm going to stick with the first lane. I am going to go for the middle lane. The customer didn't want to go ahead with this job. They've got new cars. They've had this car from brand new. This is a genuine one owner from new car. They bought this brand new. BMW X5, X6 or something in front of me with they're having road rage in front of us here. He's got a Pops and Bangs map on it and it sounds awful. I don't get those Pops and Bangs remaps. It just sounds like Del Boy's van backfiring. Well, I think we have successfully fixed the gearbox issue. Granted, I've only done 6 mile, but fingers crossed we don't have any more problems. I knew there was some life left in this car. I suppose sometimes you've just got to take the positives. The positives are, it's been really good experience for Nathan because he's took the gearbox out and back in with me twice. So I think I could safely leave him to do a gearbox on his own now because he's had some good experience with this car. It's not been good for my pocket, but right, so I'm going to go the long way back to the garage, and I'm pretty confident to say we could get on with the service and get it booked in for a valet. Back in the garage, I'm going to tell the boys that it's not fixed and they're going to have to take the gearbox back out again. Sorry Nathan, the gearbox is going to have to come back out, mate. Shall I interview you?
I don't want to do it.
What would you like to say about that?
Scrap it. It's not worth it, man.
It's fixed it. It's working.
I was going to cry.
Yeah, so happy with that. Service, get some of the paintwork touched up, and see how we get on with that now. Genuine touch-up pen. May as well just use Tipex. Same colour as the car, isn't it? I'm awful at touching in cars. That literally looks like a child's done it. I've seen children colouring books better than that.
You've missed a bit.
So after the successful road test, we've decided to get on with the service. We've done an A service. It was due a fuel filter, and we're going to service, well, change the oil in the rear diff. I'm not sure when that was last done, so we're going to do that so it's been done at the same time as the gearbox, if that makes sense. Whoa. Bit of a spillage going on there. Nathan's going to fill up the diff. I think we've said previously, I've been looking at the history with this car. It's had a new rear subframe. The rear brake pipes have been done. This section of the exhaust has been replaced. I've got a bill when we've done that ourselves. Obviously, second-hand torque converter and gearbox. In one of the previous services in the last year or so, we put 2 suspension arms on, 2 anti-roll bar links. This car's also had an oil cooler replacement, which is a pretty big job on one of these engines and a common job. We've also done a rocker cover replacement for an oil leak, which we've shown on the channel before. John is actually doing an oil cooler over here, so we'll show you what's involved to actually do that job. Same engine, that is the oil cooler, which is quite buried underneath there. It's quite a big job, it's a common job. It's another tick off the old list of stuff that's been done to this old Merc. So that is the new oil cooler, which has already been replaced on our car. Paula has very kindly added up all the bills that's been spent with us on this car. It's been coming to us since 2016. So from 16 until the time we bought it, he spent £11,000. We'll get the service finished off, get some more mileage done on the car, get it cleaned up. We've been touching in bits of the paintwork. The bodywork's not amazing, but I bought some new number plates. Number plates are always a good thing to replace. If you look at that plate, they always look a bit scruffy. A fresh set of plates always freshens a car up, and they're about 15 quid for a pair. Highly recommend it. Right, everybody, the car is finished. This is the folder with all the service history in. I've put everything in order so it looks nice and neat. I mean, we have got stacks and stacks here, look at that. Everybody's probably wondering how much I've spent. Do I go through individual costs or do I just say it, just get to the point? We paid £750 for the car. The torque converter we got for free, which fixed the stalling, but then we figured out we had a gearbox fault. So we then had to fit used gearbox. Took the gearbox out again, basically did the whole job again. So we've had 2 lots of gearbox servicing kits, and that's bolts, gaskets, filters and oil, and the oil is mega expensive, so we've gone through loads of oil. Once we finally got it up and running, and we've done an A service, we also did the rear axle oil. We weren't sure if that's ever been done, something not a lot of many people do, so we just got that done. Wheels, we had the wheels refurbished. Oh, it was also due a fuel filter on the service. The fuel filter on these are 100 quid, £100 just for a fuel filter. We've also had a full valet and polish inside and out, and I have to say it's come up really nice. I'm really happy with the results. So the total figure for this car, including our labour, by the way, £3,130. That's what this car owes us. Now, it's a difficult one now. How do you figure out what a car like this is worth? I have had a look on Auto Trader, brought it down to like a 50-mile distance, had a look at the cheapest ones within that distance, and they're about 3,000 quid, £3,200, but they're all tatty, they've all had 10 owners, they've got 1 key, they've got some or no service history. The mileage seems to be around 140,000. So how would you price this? It's 1 owner from brand new, full service history, 2 keys, really good spec. You know, we've regassed the air conditioning. It's got DAB radio, it's got Bluetooth audio. You know, it's just got everything you need for a daily driver. We've got a pan roof. You know, what more do you want? You might think I'm mad, but I'm going to price this car at £4,000. I think the fact that it's a 1 owner, it's a good spec, full history, and it's been looked after by myself for the last 8 years, I think that adds value to it, because I can imagine you go and look at those £3,000 ones on Auto Trader and they're just going to be awful, to be honest. Wasn't ideal, we had to take the gearbox in and out twice, to be honest, but we took a risk. We tried to do this on a budget. I suppose it kind of half paid off. It fixed half the problem. I've been having a look through the history. It's had a brand new windscreen last year, I think. We've got the paperwork for that, brand new windscreen, and I'm just looking through it now, there's not a mark on it. So, you know, 200,000 miles, you could imagine that old windscreen, it would have been absolutely battered. Am I glad we did it? Yeah, I am. I'm really pleased with the outcome. I don't think it deserved to be scrapped. I think it deserved one last go at life. So that sums up this video. Make sure you give us a like and a subscribe. A lot of our viewers aren't subscribed. Give us a subscribe. I've been challenged by a member of the family that if I get to 30,000 followers by New Year, they'll take me to any restaurant of my choice paid for. Now, I don't really have expensive taste, but I think if I reach 30,000 followers and I get to take them up on that challenge, I think I'm going to have expensive taste that night. Oh, I've also discovered, I had no idea this was a thing, you can give people super likes. So if you're feeling generous, give us a super like. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.